Public comment, we'll start with public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? There being none, I will move on to review of the minutes for March 1st, 2023, February 1st, 2023, and January 18th, 2023.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve minutes for February 1st, 2023, and March 1st, February 1st, 2023, and March 1st, 2023, and table review of minutes, or approval minutes of January 18th. For the meeting.
I'll second.
And I asked for
Any discussion or questions? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have a Class 2 vehicle dealer license, name change for 60 Water Street, FM Auto Body Collision LLC, DBA, Lino Auto Sales. Is there anyone here for that? Sure, come on up and please introduce yourself.
My name is Carolina Mateo. Good afternoon. My name is Carolina Mateo. I have a small shop at 60 Water Street. The name of the business is FM Auto Body Collision. I'm doing business at FM Auto Body Collision. And I also have a dealer license for 2 cars, which I'm doing business as FM Auto Body Collision. But I would like to change that name and do business as Lino Auto Sales.
All right, excellent. All right, so this being a public hearing, is there anyone here to speak in support of this name change? All right, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the name change? All right, so we'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any questions from the board? There being none. It's the pleasure of the
Mr.
board.
Chair, I move that we approve a request from Catalina Mateo, doing business as FM Auto Body Collision, to change the business name to Lino Auto Sales for the Class 2 dealer license operating at 60 Water Street.
I'll second.
Second. Any questions or comments? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda, the Class 2 vehicle dealer license, new license hearing for 291 Berlin Street, Right Price Auto Sales Incorporated, DBA Right Price Auto Sales. Is there anyone, come on up to the table and introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Mustafa. I have a Class 2 dealer license in Worcester for 2 years and found a better location here and looking to open and do business in this town.
Very good. So we'll open the hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this new license? All right, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? All right, so we'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any questions from the board?
No.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve an application from Right Price Auto Sales, doing business as Right Price Auto Sales, for a license to operate a Class 2 vehicle dealer license at 291 Berlin Street.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
He's up next.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Sure.
I'm also applying for a garage license.
Okay.
That's right
Is that
next.
all
Oh.
together?
That's the next
No,
hearing.
but it's
Yep,
next.
stay right there. Oops,
Hope stay.
stay right there. Oop. You can stay right there. Yep,
Okay.
Moving on to
one-stop shopping.
Glad you caught that. All
I
right,
know.
so, next item on the agenda would be a commercial garage repair new license hearing for 291 Berlin Street, Right Price Auto Sales. If you want to tell us a little bit about that, please. You can sit that.
Yeah,
you're-
Yeah,
you
you
wanna
can
sit,
sit.
yes,
Yeah, go ahead.
please.
Yeah, I'm looking to do quick repairs, brakes, oil change, just a quick service in and out.
Okay. All right, is there anyone here to speak in support of the garage repair license? Is there anyone here speaking in opposition? There being none, we'll close that portion of the hearing. Are there any questions from the board? All right, it's a pleasure.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve an application from Right Price Auto Sales to operate a commercial automobile repair garage at 291 Berlin Street.
I'll second.
All right, any questions or comments? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you
Very
so
good.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Welcome to Clinton.
The next item on the agenda will be the joint meeting with the Finance Committee for the FY 2024 budget hearings. The first department is Council on Aging.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, so thank you for allowing me to present our fiscal 24 budget. As you can see, you all have a copy, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so as you can see, the first 8 lines are salary lines, and basically those numbers reflect just the step. There's no COLA in that number, okay? The next line is just van maintenance, which is just windshield wiper fluid and, cleaning supplies, things like that for the vans. And then the next line here is a new line. And this is just to separate the meal program from the regular activity programs. We do a lot with Veterans Breakfast. We do special meals, we do nutritional meals, we do special, classes with nutritional, like heart healthy, things like that. And this would be for the meal site manager to be able to have a budget specific for meals. We have our Thursday lunches, and we have once a month we have a Thursday dinner. So that's just to separate that out a little bit. And we also have, of course, Valentine's Day, Mardi Gras, and all the rest of that as well would be under that line. So, like I said, currently they come out of the program budget, but this way the program coordinator and the meal site manager will know exactly how much they have in their budget to work with and can be efficient with what they have. I'm keeping the programs and the utilities would remain the same. There is an increase in the miscellaneous, but that's because the cost of ink and paper and everything has gone up so much, but also contracted services like our technology, support and all of that. So that went up just a little bit. And then the other is our numbers have increased. We are back to pre-COVID numbers attending the center, which is great. And when you look at the entire budget, it's only an increase of $26,000. So we hope you'll consider this increase to help us help our residents over age 60. Does anyone have any questions?
So right now, meals and clothing. The meals are being spent with the $15,000.
Correct.
But are you doing more I'm just trying to understand, if the meals is being separated out, why programs will come down? Like, are there more
Because
programs?
program costs are more too. Our fees for instructors, when we have people come in for events, it used to be we could have somebody come in and entertain for, $100. Now they're like $250. So those have all gone up. Our transportation, we try to get a lot of funding through, we are charging a little bit and have some donations that come in. But like I said, even the buses have gone from $600 to $1,500. So the program costs have increased a lot, and we keep trying to increase our programs because the baby boomers are coming up. They have different wants, different needs. So we're trying to address that as well and adding more programs. And we've been in conversations with Jim is the chairman of the board, and we've been in conversations with the board about opening another night because a lot of our seniors are still working. So we are open Thursday nights now, so we're looking to maybe expand and open another night, probably a Tuesday night, and have more programs that night too. So we're adding more time, more programs, more people.
How much do you expect to get from the Regional Transit Authority? How much?
This past year, I believe we got 68,000. Is that, do you know?
Regional
From
Transit,
the WRTA.
60,849.
Okay, 60,849, it's in the little comments.
That was last year. How much do you?
Well, we can renegotiate that. That was Mr. Ward, Mr. Kovas last year contracted with the WRTA. So we can renegotiate with them.
Okay.
And let them know, this is what, our expenses are and stuff like that. And they have told us with the volume that we do at the center, we should be asking for more.
Okay.
So
Good.
we'll talk about that.
Absolutely, most definitely. For the utilities, so level budgeting there, did utilities go up, or?
This building amazes me, it really does. I mean, we've had enough in our budget to pay the utilities, and it's been fine.
Good.
It's warm in there. Like I said, that furnace is older than sin, but it works fabulously. And we've got the cast iron radiators, and it's just, I don't know why, but yeah, we're good with that number.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Not a budget thing, Mr. Chair, but any update on the renovations?
You mean painting?
Yeah.
Yes. So the bids, it went out for bid. April 12th, the bids are due.
Good.
And God willing, May, we'll
Okay.
start painting.
Terrific. Pick a color.
What's that?
Color?
Same.
Okay.
And how many, we had 4,
5.
5?
5 came to the site visit,
Yeah.
and we've had some calls since, asking questions. So hopefully we'll get at least a few good bids in.
Terrific.
So,
Thank you.
we're on the home stretch, I hope.
Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, next up, Clinton Parks and Recreation.
Hello.
How are you?
Leo. So, I'm Mackenzie. I'm the director of Clinton Parks and Rec. So, the first item we have is probably our biggest difference. We increased rec wages, which is our summer staff for the summer playground program. We extended this program 3 weeks this year, so it's the kindergarten playground, so that's for when the week that the kids get out. And then there's 2 additional weeks held at the Clinton Parks and Rec building. And then, so this brings the staff up, gives any necessary wages, and pays for the summer in its entirety so that we don't have to raise tuition on the families. And then any additional, typically programming and event staff would come out of this as well, but that we're prepared to pay out of revolving. And then the next 2 items are the rec director and rec manager salaries, and those were the 4% cost of living increase that we were advised to do by the chairman of our board. And then rec miscellaneous expense, we increased marginally to support inflated costs as well as additional membership dues, because we've been getting more involved than in previous years with community affiliations. Park heat, light, and power, we increased that marginally as well to support inflated costs. Park miscellaneous expenses were increased to support inflated costs, as well as additional porta potties being placed and maintained, so they get cleaned weekly. Office heat, light, and power is for the building and Fuller Field, and so that's increased to support inflated costs. And then any new equipment and programming supplies will be taken out of revolving as well. The only other thing, which it should appear on this first page, I apologize, is pre-COVID, we did have a part-time admin in the office, so they had full-time hours during the summer months, and then we're part-time, 20 hours a week during the rest of the year, and we're hoping to reinstate that as well. And you can see that on the 3rd page.
So on the capital projects, do you just have an update on the 2 that are for this year? Fieldhouse condition. Is it, I don't know about the fieldhouse and restrooms, if that's different.
So that was advised from Brian Farragher, so it would be more under him than it would be under our department.
So do you have any like capital requests for this year? Anything on your horizon?
We would like to get the restrooms in order, but that would fall more under Brian's department to maintain those funds, or manage those funds rather.
So who would put the, like a warrant article together for those? Would you expect him to do that?
We could work on that together.
Okay. Yeah, I just feel like we had, I don't know what our cash is looking like for this year, but certainly last year we had free cash to do some of these projects, so I think I would like to see some of them move forward if we could for this year, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
We do too.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. You oversee the park, correct?
Yes, we
Okay.
do park management, whereas Brian is more park maintenance.
Okay, because my question is about the fountain. It's really in bad shape. So I was wondering, is there any coordination going on as far as getting something done, hopefully before Memorial Day?
So we have been, I talked to Brian on Tuesday, I believe, about getting that in order, and he's talking to the necessary parties to get that, at least like plans for the spring and summer to have this fountain in order. That's more Brian's department, but it is mine though.
All right,
I had sent over, there was about $27,000 left from previous warrant articles that involved the fountain. So there was the pump, the water pump was 16,000, and then there was 11,000 left from painting and reconditioning. So I had sent that to Brian, so he's gonna look to see what they can do with that.
Question.
Sure.
For your summer staff, do you look for applicants that are bilingual?
We have some applicants that are bilingual. That's always a plus.
It's a plus. Do you seek them out?
Yes, there's a pretty high bilingual population that applies anyway. So it's not like a prerequisite, but it's always a plus.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Do you have a breakdown of the 85,800, or is that just a guess?
I could provide a breakdown, yes.
Because that's the biggest chunk that you have here.
Yes.
Sorry.
So we have 20 staff. I can provide like an on-paper breakdown if you need that as well. But it's our 20 seasonal staff members over the course of the 10 weeks of the program. And their starting wages are $15 an hour, and then the program supervisor that makes the most is $19.55. So.
But you have more, 20 is more than last year, is that what you're saying?
Yes, because we were able to accommodate more participants with additional staffing.
How many more?
But you still have 20, sorry, go ahead.
How many more?
We're able to
You have 20, so that's an increase of how many?
well, we're back to pre-COVID numbers, so we can take 100 kids at the moment, so.
The number of staff isn't increasing, the number of weeks is increasing. So we gotta pay them for 3 additional weeks, right?
staff is increasing.
Well, staff is increasing back to pre-COVID numbers as
So
well.
last year we weren't at 20?
No,
Okay. And 3 extra weeks.
yes.
How many were we at last year?
Last year, I believe we were at 17,
So you're looking for 3 additional people and 3 extra weeks of program.
yes.
Now, you had mentioned earlier about the catching up on the wages from prior years, the employees were paid below.
Well, not catching up on them, it was just we were making sure everyone is being paid minimum wage as they should be.
So is that funding request also reflecting the additional, well, not the additional, but the correct wage?
Yes.
So last year, it was being requested at
It was
previous
requested
rate.
at previous rates, and then we had to supplement it, so now we're paying event staff out of our revolving account anyway.
So even though it shows that there's $19,000 increase, it was because
It was
previous
requested.
year was we're paying illegally, right? We were paying below
Yes.
wage, so.
Can I sneak in here? Mr. Chair, the administrative assistant, I might have missed that in the explanation. That's not in the front page budget.
It's not in the front page budget. We had an administrative assistant in the office with the part-time, full-time hours seasonally, pre-COVID, so we were hoping to bring that position back as well.
Okay.
That is where? How much is that?
We gotta go on.
It's on the third page, I apologize, I
Same
should
last
have done that last time.
Okay.
It's another 23,560, sorry.
Any other, any other questions for the parks? So for utilities, same question. So the utility increase, that $500 is sufficient?
We are switching to LEDs, and the National Grid bills are predicted to go down, so that was our predicted amount to keep it within our budget for this coming year.
Is there any other questions for the Parks and Rec?
Not for me.
All right, well, hold on one second. So we have Fuller Field, right? So that's all part, is that all part of?
They were dissolved this summer, actually. Angela just let us know.
Okay, so I know at the last meeting, you were still
Yes.
splitting,
Two
so going
budgets.
forward, it's
Well,
one
we
meeting.
have this
One more
coming
meeting, we'll
yeah.
make the announcement.
One more.
So I'm gonna make a public
Yes.
announcement.
Gotcha. All right, well, that makes it easy.
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item on the agenda, the police department budget, Chief Coyne.
Good evening, everybody. I have a 11 and 12 page document, and it's usually when we go through page by page, and I can kind of fill you in where we're at with each one, what's going on. First page is a summary sheet with the fiscal budget of last year and what the fiscal budget is this year, what proposed, what I'm requesting. And there's a difference of approximately $47,000. And I can get into explaining that and then kind of go through the sheet. Some of the proposed expenses that have increased, the police educational incentive is increased by $39,000. And the reason for that is that some of the new officers that we're hiring, there are more officers that are eligible for the benefit contractually, as well as some of the more veteran officers. I kind of asked and put the word out that officers that are going to be earning a degree this year, and 2 officers are going to be earning a degree this year that are currently in the department. So that's going to increase the cost right there. Longevity pay is going to go up just a little bit, about $1,500. Again, that's because more officers are eligible for the contractual benefit. After 20 years, it's $850. After 25, it's $1,150. After 30 years, it's $1,600. Holiday pay is also going to go up. $18,000, and that's contractually because there's an addition of a 12th holiday, the addition of the Juneteenth holiday, which came in last year. The officers and the dispatchers, so all 39 employees over at the police department are going to receive that benefit. I'm asking for $10,000 in overtime, requesting money a little bit more than I did last year. Our general expenses are going to go up just a little bit, $3,500. The main reason is I took the merger, we had a line item for the radio maintenance. I put it in with general expenses. It's a $3,000 cost, so that's pretty much why that went up. It also went up because in addition to $500 to professional dues.
Heat, light, and power, I added $3,000 in anticipation, I think the senior center just said, in anticipation of some increases in energy costs that we've seen throughout the year, and I think that's going to continue on, so I asked for a little bit more money in that. I'm sorry. Some of the proposed expenses that are going to decrease in this proposed budget would be new equipment, and asked for $34,000 less than last year. Last year we purchased a new software system, the Power Phone Total Response for the dispatch center. It was a software system that cost about $50,000. But we're not going to go down 50 because we're seeing a huge increase in the cost, the purchase price of new cruisers. We've gone over the last couple of years. This will be, if we get approval, this will be our third hybrid cruiser. We've seen significant cost not only in the cost of the cruiser, but in the equipment that goes into the cruiser. We've seen significant delays. The cruiser that we ordered last July, we still haven't got possession of. We're hoping to in the next few weeks, from what I hear. So there's some significant costs. I think I asked for $45,000. I asked for $55,000, and that was the cost of the cruiser that we just purchased this year. Training costs going to go down about $6,500. There's less tuition costs for the MPTC, the Municipal Police Training Committee. Police Academy, last year we hired 4 new officers. We had to pay for their tuition, we had to pay for their equipment, their uniforms and everything to get them started before they even came out on the street. So we're going to have less expenses. We anticipate 1 new hire. We're at 28 officers right now, fully staffed. We're at 29 officers. So we anticipate hiring 1 officer to send to the academy, but last year we sent 4. So those costs will go down. Same thing with the uniform costs. I expect those to go down about $9,000, and it's the same as the training expenses. We anticipate the hiring of only 1 officer this year, and the uniform costs and preparing only 1 officer for the training will be a lot less. So I expect some of those costs to go down. So I'm asking for $47,000 more than last year, but if you can see, $39,000 of it is police educational incentives, which is a contractual obligation, longevity pay, holiday pay with the addition of a new holiday. I am asking for an increase in some overtime expenses and some general expenses, $3,500 heat, light, and power, hopefully in anticipation of some of the costs going up.
Can I just, Mr. Chairman, just one question, Chief. On the police court pay, why does that stay the same? What makes that?
The court pay, and I'm trying to get more of a handle. I'm trying to really see where we're at to make changes in the way we police, the hours, and our staffing levels. But over the last 2 or 3 years, that's been very difficult to say. And our court costs have significantly gone down over the pandemic. The courts just weren't open. There just weren't cases. Some of the cases that were going forward were via Zoom meetings and all that. So I don't see, we're coming out of that. We definitely see our court time expenses going back up, but it's kind of stayed the same for the last couple of years, and we've been able to manage with that.
Okay.
Also see a lot less cases being tried or going as far, so I don't know what the reason behind that is. But to gauge what's going on with the court and some of the things, because Clinton's, the community's changed, not to get off of and I'm trying to anticipate where our staffing, where it should be. I think we're at a good level of officers, but we don't have the bars that are open till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. We're not going and throwing people out. We see a change where the day shift was quieter in the past, and guys went to it at the end of their careers and kind of rolled on that, but we see a significant increase in calls and services needed on the day shift. Not to say the night shift is less, but it's different. You know, the community's changing, calls for service are changing, and our staffing level, and we've talked about this a lot with the lieutenants and even the sergeants at some of the supervisor meetings that we've had. But it's hard to gauge over the pandemic, because our calls really went off. You know, it was a very strange time when the amount of calls and the types of calls and how we reacted and responded to those calls too, with the safety precautions in place. So I hope over the next year or 2, as we're coming out of the pandemic, to see where we're at and where the services are really needed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On the salaries,
Yeah.
where are you at with your contract? And is there any % increase?
I kind of put that on the back. I think it's like page 10 or so.
Yeah.
Possible COLA increases. And I kind of came up with a figure, if there is a increase of 3% or 2%, that's kind of some of the things that have been proposed and going off what some of the other unions have talked about, and then the school contract. So with the 3% increase, the salaries through the officers, the dispatchers, I don't know if everybody knows, the dispatchers also formed a union. They did a 1-year contract last year to supplement them, to get them in line with all the rest of the unions here in town. So both unions, the police officers union and the dispatch union, their contracts have expired as of June 2022. So they're both in negotiations for new contracts. So I base these figures on the officer's salary and dispatch salary. And if they do get any increases, 3%, 2%, whatever it may be, holiday pay, education, percentage-based education incentive, and sick time buyback, all those costs will go up. So I figured with the numbers we have right now, 3% increase would cost the town about $89,000, $88,811, and 2% would be almost $60,000, $59,000.
So we'll have to add 2 years of increase, right? We'll have to add as of last year and now for this year.
If the contract,
If the contract.
depending how it's negotiated and finalized, it could be retroactive, yeah. It'd be almost a year now already.
How is that going?
What's that?
How's that going?
I think it's going well. There have been some hiccups. The attorney for the union, through no fault of anybody, he was appointed a judge. He's a judgeship, so that kind of put the timeline back a little bit. Everything's going good and very amicably, and I think we all want the same thing. The officers in the town want a high level of service, and I think everything's going pretty good. The dispatchers are even behind that. They started a little later in the process, so the new attorney had to kind of get up and running with everything that's going on. So I think that's what we're kind of in delays right now. Unfortunately, that didn't help.
Any other questions?
But I can go through each page.
I think that was, unless anyone has any specific questions about any line item.
No, I mean, I appreciate all this detail, though, it's helpful.
It's great,
So-
Pat.
I kind of put this together today too. I can absolutely make a copy that you guys have. It's kind of what I just read off about what the increases are and what the expected proposed decreases are in the budget too. Rather than you guys try to
That'd be
put
good.
those together. We can make that available.
Chief, so there is a warrant article from fiscal year 20 for the cloud-based software.
Yes.
What's the status on that?
We've had demo after demo, and we're kind of, we're waiting for, the Neshoba Regional does a lot of towns around us, and they had a system that was in place, IMC, which is long been in place. We were kind of looking at that, we had a demo with it, and then we found out that they got bought out by a bigger national that went around the whole country, that based out of San Francisco, and bought up everybody. So they're looking at making some changes over there, as well as a lot of departments in the area. We had one system, Quincy, QED, they do Cambridge, kind of just outside of Boston. They're a really good product, but we don't want to be on an island with that either, where we're the only ones in central Massachusetts, or we're the only ones in the area. And we tested a product that came out of Connecticut. We've been hearing some bad things about them, not to disparage everybody, it just might not be what's for us. There's a couple others that we talked to and we demoed, we called like Motorola. They kind of laughed at us, like we're so small, you know, they want to do these major centers countywide, like in California and all that. But there's some that just have too many bells and whistles for what our needs are. We want a good product. We want a product that's going to grow and move with us, but at the same time, we don't need all the mapping and some of the stuff that's on there. We're 5 square miles, you know, we don't need to know what card sector is closer. We just go get to the call. So we're still in the process, and I apologize, it is a long process. We have had a lot of people, we've had some serious discussions and kind of hammering things out. And we're hoping, and nobody's on the same page. There's more of these products out there where Worcester went with one, and then I heard fire went with one, and police went with separate, and now they're merging. I don't know. So we're trying to figure out where everybody else is going to land to, because a lot of them had this IMC, and since they're continuing to maintain the product they have, but they're not gonna make any updates to it. So we're not gonna buy a product that we're going backwards. And the new product that they have is cloud-based, and we got a $78,000 or $68,000 a year maintenance fees with this. And like, yeah, okay, that may not be what we're looking for. So it's a good product, it's cloud-based and all that. So, but it's very, very expensive. So I don't think it's gonna be what our needs are. So we are working on it, and we really wanna do something with that. We have a solid product where we're at, but I think we need one that grows more and does a little more with mobiles and our mobile data terminals on the cars with some of the younger guys that really utilize those, and I think a system that works with that. But that's where we're at. We could buy a product, we could have bought a product, we've demoed plenty of them, we've talked to a lot of people, but nothing's wowed me that, oh yeah, this is the one for us. This is definitely what we need. You know, the one that I'm closest to, nobody in Central Mass has. Like I said, it does the Cambridge area, it does all outside of Boston. It's a good product, but.
All right.
So, that's where we're at.
Greatly appreciated.
Was there one last year too with the signs?
This radar,
Yeah.
those have been
Did we get
purchased.
those?
Those have been purchased, and I talked to Mr. McGowan, and he's gonna start
Oh,
taking a
was
look
that
at.
through him?
Yeah, it's through the road, it's technically through the DPW, yep. So, and, he's gonna start looking at them, and, we'll start installing them.
Our newest officers are off the FTO training, so we're doing pretty good with staffing as far as that. And if you guys see, they're very active out there, which is great. And they're doing some good work already in a very short time that they're out there. So things are going good otherwise in the department.
Gonna get those bikes back out there?
We are.
Nice.
Yes, we have a plan for that. And that's part of where we're changing in the community and where we need to utilize what we have and put it in maybe in a different place and get people out there on that for sure.
Maybe some electric bikes?
Yes, maybe. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
Good.
Chief, how's the facility that you're in? Is that,
Brian's doing a great job. We have some updates that he's helping us with right now. We're converting what used to be a crime lab, but we don't really do our own fingerprints or process our own photographs anymore like they used to way back in the day with Frank Bear was detective. So it's kind of been a storage closet. So we're going to make that into a narcotics evidence room, and we're going to get rid of some of the evidence and property that's kind of overwhelmed in the space it's at, and bring it into that room. And Brian's gonna help us out. We have a little kitchenette with the officers that's kind of had a leak and is rotting out. So Brian's doing a good job helping us with that. It's a 25-year-old building. We're doing the best we can. The janitor does a good job. We're trying to, storage is a huge issue. We just got a shed there. Toby Crawley and the students up at Clinton High School helped us with that. So that's gonna help us out. Some of the, not evidence, but some property maybe from things that we have to by law keep hold of for at least a year. We can go to store some of that and make some space in the evidence property room as well. So that's going to help us out a lot as well. So we're doing what we can. There's some things that can be done, but right now we're doing pretty good.
Chief, there's a little hesitation when you say we do the best we can here.
I don't know. There's a lot of land up by St. John's Gym up there. I know that. Nice police fire station.
What's the building gonna look like in 5 years, 10 years?
There's going to be some things that need to be done, you know?
Sure, but
I don't think anything major, you know, just a little bit here and there. But space is definitely an issue. I wish we're trying to do the best we can with the training room that we have, but that had some issues, and because of space, we put the officers in there to do their reports. We really didn't have a report writing section, so we kind of took over that space where we don't utilize it. A lot of police departments go in, there's a training community room off of it where we could invite the community in to do some more things in the police department and that. And where we have it downstairs, you really, when you come out, the officers' locker rooms are right there, the officers do their reports right there, so it's not really, it's nothing we're going to be utilizing for any community purposes. We're trying to do we're going to try to get a kids' police academy together for the summer. We have the officers, SRO Sylvester's working on that. We're going to get that out posted pretty soon. And it'd be good for something like that, but other community events, and other departments sponsor training where they can get, if you sponsor a training class, you can get a couple officers for free to go to that training, which is great. We just don't have the facilities for something like that.
Mr. Chair, since we're dancing around it, and everybody's here, what's the process for something, if we're thinking about this? Like, where we, anywhere close, like if we want to do a feasibility study, do we need the land? Would we talk about like what we need first and then the land comes later? Or is there any kind of roadmap for starting this process or just exploring it to see what it would cost, what kind of space we would need, what would be feasible?
Yeah, I think that would be the best process. If you feel there's a need, then, you would hire a consultant. They would do a needs analysis and then a feasibility study. Now, you don't need the property, which we did when we were looking to do the water filtration plant. You could look as to what your needs are, how you want it developed, and then look throughout the town to see what property is available. So the property up there, we ended up taking by eminent domain because we felt based on the intake and the water system where the best location would be. But we did investigate several other sites around town as well too. So you certainly don't need any property. It's just trying to put your project together and then seeing where that might fit in the town. But initially, I think you're right, would start with the needs analysis. What do we need? What are we looking for? If you're looking for a building, how big is that building going to be? What are you going to do with that building? So all that, I think, can be facilitated with a consultant that can kind of meet with departments and look at best practices and try to put together a project.
And then do we have, I'm not putting you on the spot, but like for the filtration, and that's been years ago, like is this $50,000, is this $100,000?
Yeah, it was many years ago,
Right.
but I think it was around that $50,000 range, yeah, 35, 50,000, somewhere.
Because it's a multi-year process, and if we are chasing land, I think it would serve us well to be able to point to what we need that land for, not just our speculation, but actual, details. I don't know, maybe we can talk about if that's something we want to look at for June, or just saying.
Because we're not putting together a full set of plans, it's just really schematics and size, kind of look at size and then blocks about what would go in that space. So, and then they would try to, do an estimating service, which would give you a cost estimate as well too.
Okay.
Mr.
So,
Chairman.
timeline, construction, all that stuff.
Mr. Chairman, my concern about, doing that process is fine, but what if in the next 10 months, we find out the diocese says we're going to sell that land? And, do we want to take the chance that I know we say we have the first offer of refusal, but what happens if that happens? The church says we're going to sell that land. Does the town not show an interest because we haven't done our research, or?
Mr. Chair, I wasn't saying that at all, but.
No, but I'm just saying,
Yeah. No,
I don't think
absolutely. I think you would decide then at that time that you would go forward with the property. If you felt that the property was of value to the town for a municipal purpose, that you could go forward and purchase the land. And it may or may not house this program, or maybe something else, maybe recreation program. And so I think there seems to be consensus that there is some value to that property and the location and size of it to the town for some public good, some public purpose. So I would definitely say pursue that process if that comes available, irregardless of what we're doing in terms of a study. Yep, absolutely.
I'm just curious what the feeling of the finance committee is about the St. John's property.
I don't know the committee has talked about it in general, but personally, I'd like to see the town get a right of first refusal.
Yeah, I think that would be a good solution for our building issues. I think it would be great to be able to get that.
We did talk about that at last meeting, I thought.
Yeah.
I don't know where that's progressed, but.
I know the town could really use another gym. I think when it comes basketball season, there must be like 20, 25 teams in Clinton, and there's 3 gyms. And it'd be nice to have another gym to have, for the teams to practice.
I think just the open gym, open to the community on Friday night was a huge benefit to the community, and if they could do that a couple nights a week, that'd be great.
I know the old St. John's, you could get 200 kids up there on a Friday night, open gym.
Easy.
I don't know where they're going now.
What's the process for the eminent domain? Like, how would you, if it came down to it, how do you initiate that action?
Yeah, I mean, there's a process for that. You have to do it, and of course, they can, it has to meet, you have to meet certain criteria. You just can't, we have to demonstrate that that's the only property available we need for a specific use. And then if you get over those hurdles, then the owner has an option, then you have to get an evaluation done, when you come up with an appraisal, that's then what you would offer to the owner. Of course, they have the right to appeal that, the value amount. The eminent domain taking, they would, if we met all that criteria, we'd have to look at, whether or not, that property would meet that criteria. It's different, we've done it for roadways and stuff, for widened roadways, we've done that, you might have to take property eminent domain. Taking private property like that you have to have some like purpose of the day, good for the town, you have to have a specific purpose.
Right, so if you have, with a public safety building, hypothetically, if you did the, the analysis of whatever the needs are, so similar to like the water filtration plant, if the need of that building, if that was kind of some of the only property in town that it could be built on, then that would show. And then, in my biggest concern with it is if similar to what happened with the lease, when we were approached about leasing the gym, where it was in October and budget had already been set, and what can you do mid-year to kind of not lose out on that opportunity to.
One of the things I've heard about, I don't know if they're really, the church is willing to give us an option to purchase. That would be, they're willing to give the town the right of first refusal. That's a document that we should look into now. If they're willing to give us, get it recorded that way there. And that document lay out that we would have the option to purchase, recognizing we have to have get town meeting approval for that. But the church, the diocese, will give us that option, and give us that right of first refusal. That's something we should pursue now. Get that document, get it recorded, so when they do have a buyer, we then could exercise that right of that option to see if the town would move forward with that purchase.
And what would the town need from the board to initiate that process?
We would need, just a vote to reach out to, private owners. I've heard them, I don't know if they are really willing to give that right of first refusal. You'd have to sit down and see if they want. We keep talking, I hear about that, unless you actually have a written document signed by the diocese, it actually is a right of first refusal. We don't have a right of first refusal.
No.
You can't give that to it has to be a right.
But it wouldn't be hurt to at least have a conversation.
Yeah, I think regardless of how we want to utilize that property, it's evident that it holds some municipal value. I agree 100%. I think we need to start to initiate that conversation. I mean, the worst that they say is no, and that they're not ready. But I agree, we've kind of been talking about it and having conversations with the diocese about it, and there's been a lot of kind of gentlemen's agreements, but I think at this point it makes sense to just find out, where are we actually at, and formally kind of request that this is something that we're interested in pursuing, and just see what the response is.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll put that in the form of a motion to authorize the town administrator to contact whoever at the diocese or parish to enter into discussions/negotiations about securing right of first refusal for that property.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Well, the only discussion is I thought I had moved this once before and that we agreed to have Michael do a letter. I know I did.
But now we're talking about doing a legal note, like a legal.
Like, a letter expressing our interest is probably important, but we need to move it one step further.
Oh, I'm not opposed to
Right?
that, but I know that we did at one point. I know Mike confirmed that he did, so. But I'm not, I felt all along, I think I said at the last meeting, we should go to the diocese, but So I'm certainly in favor of the motion.
Maybe it's just formalizing it a bit.
Now they
I don't
don't
want to
really
take all
say.
your time.
All in favor?
Aye.
But in all honesty, me and the fire chief had talked, and a lot of communities are combining a public safety building. We've talked about where incidents, and we're the co-directors of SEMA, where we've talked about, we've had incidents here in town. Fortunately, they haven't been real, but there have been some real incidents in the command center, a unit where we're in the same building, and we're gonna train together for some active shooter training coming up in another month or so, another few weeks. And really, that's the way it's going. The fire doesn't go to an incident, we go to a different one. We go together. We work together. We work hand in hand in training together, and doing things together, and having a command center together, and things like that, being in the same building with separate entrances would be perfect, you know. But I know it's a lot down the line. We're in the middle school, which is awesome, and that's great for the kids, but it's something to definitely think about. And I said the building's 25 years old, and in the police, that's the new part of the building. That's the addition that was put on to the older building. So.
How old's the older building?
80, was it in the 80s, 84 or something?
Yeah, before that, I think.
Before that.
97 was the addition, so it was well before that. I think it was the 60s and 70s.
Because our building's 84, so they're long before us.
Yeah.
60. And just for like big picture, I mean, the Presbyterian church and the 2 houses on that property, I mean, if you could secure that whole entire parcel.
We're kicking out all the churches?
Wow.
Yep. Well, going after all.
That would have to be a discussion.
Well, that's
Who knows where we'll all be by the time it's done, but that'd be great.
very good.
I appreciate it. And if anybody has any questions after, definitely get a hold of me, and I'll clarify anything that I gave you guys and all that. Thank you.
That's a very savvy increase on the budget right there. You can't go with the little one that you leaving with the building. All right, and Chief Lutz in the fire department is next.
Last but not least.
Yeah, somebody's gotta be last. I got a scenario, I don't know how I got over here.
No one opens, yeah.
I just brought a photograph, just basically I'll explain the photograph. Just for the record, I took the photograph, I printed the photographs, and I tried to hold it. Just make it clear, it's just.
It's always good to go on the record.
Yeah, I want to check this out, exactly. And I'll explain it as reservoir.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Davis Brown.
Thank you.
Nice letter.
What is this?
It's gonna be a truck.
That can't be a truck. Can be. That's the 4 panel.
I thought this might be below being.
Somebody's
No,
on.
it's being.
That's what it looks like to me.
I smell that coming, I don't know.
It's gotta, I think it's gotta go.
It's very nice.
So good evening.
Chief, this is good, very nice.
So I think to start,
That's
just
mine.
a smaller budget, obviously, is the ambulance enterprise budget.
Well, wait a second, what's the picture? You can't
No,
just.
no, when we get to the.
You can't just
we're
hand us a-
not gonna, I'm just gonna give it out, that we don't have to get up at the end when I discuss the picture.
Now everyone's gonna be distracted by, what is it?
So, we'll just start right at the top. The ambulance enterprise wages is 4 firefighters that come out of the ambulance enterprise fund. Aaron, one of the things is, in my budget, the 3% and the 3% that other unions we get are in.
Oh, good.
So the 2 COLAs for FY '23 and FY '24 are included in these numbers.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Are we looking at the ambulance enterprise fund or
Yeah.
fire?
Yeah, the ambulance enterprise.
Sorry, that's not my top page.
So,
Ambulance enterprise.
Yeah.
so basically, you just, from the top down, ambulance wages, those are with the COLAs in there. The ambulance holiday pay goes up just because of the same thing as the COLAs. The employee benefits went up from 37 to 39,000. Obviously, that's Diane. I spoke to her what I should bring it up to. She gave me that number, that's there. Ambulance miscellaneous expense has gone up. That one there was kind of tricky, because I was just kind of closely watching the budget, but our ambulance materials are just like everybody else, is just skyrocketing, it's still skyrocketing. The EMT compensation pay has stayed the same. EMT training tuition, same thing, COLAs are in there. The miscellaneous expense, again, I just put it up just a little because our expenses are going so high. The EMT overtime, I put it up. This is one that I'm already depleted on. And one of the reasons I'm depleted on it is because sitting here today, from July 1 to today, our ambulances left Clinton to other communities to assist them or to the city of Worcester, right about 120 occasions. So of that 120 occasions, depending on how many staff leave town, depending on how many staff I have to recall to backfill a station back to 5. So that $50,000 that I had in FY23 is gone. So I put that up a little, hoping that as my IOD people start to come back to work, it's gonna kind of fill our gaps in a little bit as we start the hiring process for our firefighters. Our repair and maintenance, I just left the same because it's just, as the ambulance gets older is when you start to run into more of the problems. Then the capital outlay is just the lease on the ambulance, that stayed the same. And then the added part on the bottom is paramedic compensation pay. That just, I add that as a line item, as in the EMT compensation pay is what the EMTs would get, and I put the paramedic compensation pay in there as what, you know, the higher end of it, what I would project, because we're in negotiations now. That way there, if anything happens on the 11th or the 18th, that we have a temporary agreement, the only thing I have to do is go down. There's no room up. And then on the very, very bottom, I just put an asterisk there, just, you know, not including in the above aforementioned budget, is subject to the approval of the ARPA funds, is the cost of the paramedic flag car and equipment. That gets approved through the ARPA funds, then that's not obviously part of my budget.
Chief, for the ambulance enterprise budget, so you have the user fees. What does that consist of, the user fees?
Diane, that's you.
User fees, when somebody has to take the ambulance and pay insurance.
So the town, we collected $540,000 from the insurance companies for, okay, so whoever is using the ambulance.
Usage of the ambulance.
And then the retained earnings of $150.
They have more retained earnings. It has not been certified for the last fiscal year, but he adds that to supplement user fees, assuming user fees would only be a certain amount.
Okay, thank you.
Do you know about how much is in retained earnings in there, in ambulance enterprise?
No, but I expect to have numbers soon.
So that looks like it'll be like about 140,000 short of revenue versus expenses. Will we be able to come up with that in fees, or we have to take that from the general fund?
I think I'm not looking at it, but he's supplementing the retained earnings to get to the number, correct, Chief?
Yeah, when it gets into retained earnings, I'm not gonna give you stories because I don't really.
How did you justify your budget? Just user fees, or you'll use some retained earnings?
150 retained.
But,
Yeah, the retained earnings of 150.
so 540 plus 150, that was 690.
Does that equal?
Indirect costs to be raised and appropriated, so
It's like about
we're on the hook for
140,000
$9,400.
short.
Is that right?
It's more than that.
And the budget's 821,155, plus the indirect cost, minus the two revenue sources. I think it looks like about short.
You have to justify the budget with user fees and retained earnings, basically. So if you can't, the town will have to suffer.
Okay.
The town will have to help. You'll have to look at it.
That's why that one's a little out of my scope.
Chief, on the EMT overtime, you're saying that they're running here, running there. Do we get reimbursed for that running here and there?
You get, if you transport somebody, the answer is yes. You get your ambulance fees. But like, I'll give you an example. If you go, say, to River Terrace down Lancaster, So they run 3 down there. So we recall 3, so 3 firefighters come in. We're just gonna make it, just for math, real easy math. We're gonna call it $600 for that one call of backfill. We go to Lancaster and we get there and the patient doesn't wanna go, it's a refusal. We make 0. Doesn't happen all the time. I'm just saying there's different instances. We go in and out of UMass all the time, St. Vincent's all the time, Leominster a little bit, Marlboro very little bit. But basically St. Vincent's and UMass is our priority. We go there, point of entry. We've been there, like I said, out of town. I'm not gonna say how many times I've been directly to UMass, but it's right around about 120-ish, I think, trips. When I look through the budget, what I paid so far, and all my budgets this year.
So our shortfall is about 10,000, you're saying?
Yeah, you know, and again, I'm hoping as my staff gets up and, you know, we can kind of fill that gap. Because what some of the calculating factors there is like, if you go and so it's, you got a 5-man shift and the ambulance rolls out with 2 on it and 2 in the engine, they get there. Sterling medics come down, now we're gonna go to Worcester. So 2 of our EMTs, the medic is gonna go in our ambulance, and their driver's gonna drive their medic fly car to UMass. Now there's only 2 EMTs that are leaving Clinton, so there's 3 here, so we only have to recall 2. That's like on a medical call. But when we leave the town to backfill Boylston, Sterling, Berlin, any of these towns, we have to send 3 on the ambulance. It's contractual. So when we go out of town, if there's 5, now I have to replace all 3 of them at the 4 hours.
You're saying contractual with whom?
With the contract with the union.
With the union.
Yeah. So that's just how the backfill. So any time they leave town, you gotta maintain staffing of 5. So on to, unless there's any other ambulance questions. So the fire department budget, like I said, Aaron, I did put the 6% in across the board. So you start at the top of the salaries, and the obviously acting captain's pay. The call firefighter salary is there, that's maintained because that price hasn't changed. Fire alarm, electrician hasn't changed, the clerk hasn't changed. The overtime, that's kind of I've been watching that closely. I mean, I put 25,000 in there, but even with the fact that we're down and we just lost those 3 firefighters, we're close. I put a little bit in there, and that more so to cover the raises, the cost of living adjustments. The longevity pay just went up just a little because a couple more firefighters came into that. Obviously, the holiday pay went up, like the police chief alluded, Juneteenth is in there. Then one of the bigger jumps is the fire sick time buyback. And the reason for that is I have one firefighter that's going to retire. So I have to buy back his sick time buyback in this budget for last year. Then he'll have sick time, and then his 25% that's under the agreement that I have to buy back his time. So I put all that into that line item. The incentive pay, pretty much straight across the board. Uniform allowance the same. The fire uniform expenses, that went up 5%, and I'm pretty sure that's 5%. The reason for that is just the cost of our gear. I checked before I put the budget in. I called Bergeron, and it's gone up about 5%. And we're still, right now it's getting a little bit better on the gear. We were waiting over a year for fire gear. Now it's starting to slowly get more into the 6 to 8 month range, which is a lot better. The heat and power, pretty much that covers us. The apparatus maintenance, this is holding steady, and it's because the town has a mechanic. So what this covers is the big expenses. My engine 4 just went into spring rebuild, as all the front springs were snapped and broken off with kingpins and everything. Roughly, just one job was a $5,000 job. So you get a couple of big jobs like that, and it whittles down on that. But then all the small stuff, oil changes on all my apparatus, the town mechanic, it's just the cost of the oil, the cost of the filters, and that's it. So that's a big savings there. I don't definitely have to go up on that. Fire alarm expenses, the same thing, we're well within that. The radio service, just a tiny bit, and the only reason for that is just the cost of the maintenance, and the radio's gone up a little bit. Training, same thing, just a little bit on the training, try to cover the cost of a little bit of the COLA. The fire overtime, same thing, just to cover that cost. Hose, basically, status quo. Miscellaneous expenses, you know, we have a lot of expenses, as Brian alluded to, a lot of the cost of stuff is definitely rising, but we're doing okay with that. Respiratory equipment, this is all of our air packs and everything. It's that budget there, I'm close, so that's why I only put it up $1,000, just because I think we're not too far off on that one. And the same thing with the fire equipment. That fire equipment is like my tech rescue payment for my tech rescue guys, and then equipment more for the tech rescue. It's written as fire equipment, but that bottom line item is my tech rescue guys. So I just put that up to $16,000, because one part of the negotiations is that they're asking for just to allow a couple more people on that team. It's $500 a person. So if they let a couple more people on that team, that would absorb the $1,000. It's not big. And then I'm just basically on the bottom, you know, last year I asked for one fire prevention. This year I'm going to go big on fire prevention. So one of the things I just kind of put something together, just a little bit about fire prevention and the history of the fire service. I started my long career in the fire service in December 1986. When I was a young firefighter, all you wanted to do was put out fires and hopefully make someone's life on the ambulance a little better. As time passed into the 90s, so did the change in fire codes. In 1995, the smoke detector codes changed for the better, making homes safer. In the 70s, you had approximately 13 minutes-ish to escape a house fire due to the type of combustibles we had back then. Fast forward to today, you have less than 3 minutes to escape from your home. Materials burn faster and hotter today than they did years ago. So code enforcement on these life-safety devices is a daily battle. Then, on to February 20th, 2003, a day I was working and remember vividly the constant updated news reports. Everyone knows this day as the Station nightclub fire in West Warwick, Rhode Island. This fire took the lives of 100 men and women and injured another 240 patrons. That fire changed fire protection codes across the country and drastically in Massachusetts. That fire set the stage for sprinklers in every nightclub with the capacity over 100. It mandated the use of crowd control managers in counting your patrons in to avoid overcrowding. It increased the fines on assembly use groups to dangerous conditions. First offense, $5,000. Second offense, $25,000, along with possible prison time. The last decade, Clinton has exploded in renovations that are required to meet current codes. Along with cannabis growth in dispensaries, our mill buildings are being renovated into housing units. We have many large-scale fire alarm system upgrades also happening. Lakeside Apartments upgrading 18 buildings consisting of 100 residential units and the main office building. Presentation Apartments in the Victorian out in the front are doing upgrades as well. Prescott Mills Apartments is completely changing the entire fire alarm system throughout. Briarwood Village, 42 units. Jack Mills, Main Street, almost 150 residential units. This is only a few of the large-scale properties that require constant inspections. Then you have the annual inspections for liquor licenses, combined with all sprinkler properties to have annual sprinkler testing, and every 5 years a detailed corrosion report for that sprinkler system. These larger facilities, it takes hours with more than one person just to spot test some of the fire protection devices. Taking complaints on properties as well. One Main Street business since January of 2022, I've personally handled violations there and have been to this site for over 14 different occasions. In closing, these fire prevention officers would review all the plans of any type of construction, i.e. fire alarm, sprinkler, suppression systems, BDA system, which is a bidirectional amplifiers that they put in the buildings to amplify the fire department and the police radios out so that they can get out of these brick buildings and make it safe for our firefighters. Make recommendations on changes and follow the inspection process through, start to finish. All underground tank removals, smoke and CO2 inspections, oil-fired equipment installations, and propane storage installations. I personally take the fire prevention for all our citizens and our businesses extremely serious. Thank you for considering my request for fire prevention officers. So that's kind of just my spiel where we stand on fire prevention. We've just exploded here, and I'm working as best as I can. I'm probably scratching the surface at less than 10%. I'm doing my best, but it's you know, a lot of the things that you want to get to, you can't get to. You can't. There's not enough time in the day to get to it. So then, just going to the photograph. The photograph was, last year I put in for the capital, which was forestry truck. So what this picture shows you is, when you open the door, you just push the mat back where you see. The truck is a 2006, so it's 16 years old. I don't know, my guys are very good at maintenance and washing and cleaning it, but this truck is rotted up, just out around. The engine, I'll be honest, has 32,000 miles on it, 32,000 miles on it. And the pump is pumped for countless hours at brush fires all over. The truck is now tired. That's why last year I put it in for this year, because I knew we were going to be needing it. So that's just basically showing you, if the person, as they step out of the vehicle, doesn't pay attention, they're going to be like a Flintstone, they'll be touching the floor.
Was this new when we bought it?
Huh?
Was this
Yes,
new when we
brand
bought it?
For whatever reason, and I'm not going to say, there's other vehicles that I know people have, this era of steel just was not what it was meant to be, for whatever reason. But this truck is just falling apart around us. Roger Knight is Fire Tech and Safety. He just sent me the quote. That's how I have the quote. I have it all written out. And that quote is off the state bid. And that's pretty much, I read that quote in detail. That's pretty much a complete nuts and bolts. And then these here, just to kind of just give you a sense. The reason I brought these is just to show you. This is just the fire code just for Massachusetts NFPA 1. And then this is one of three of the NFPA code for sprinklers, and then this is just a Massachusetts general law. That's just a fraction of the codes that we got to try to enforce. I just brought them to show you that they're vast. They're vast. So I feel the needs there. I've always felt it's there, and now as things change, I'm realizing it's just overwhelming the amount of work that's out there.
Mr. Chair? Mike, so the ask for a full-time resource that would their main job would just be doing fire inspections?
Day job, 2 guys, fire prevention.
Okay.
And they could never run out of work in the town.
Would 2 guys never run out of work?
Never run out of work.
Okay.
Possible.
Yeah, and are those 2 positions reflected in this budget proposal somewhere?
On the bottom, I put a note on the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, all right. So
what the cost, and that cost is, what I feel is like salary. So the reason, I explained it the last time when I put it in, why I felt the salary had to be high, and I said it because I'm expecting to turn around and have somebody go through all the course to become a fire prevention officer, and then in essence work days. So you work, say 4 days, 10.5-hour days.
Right.
And then, so now they're not going to be able to work their second job. So I'm trying to incentivize somebody to physically do this job. This is a very hard job because it's not just doing the job, but it's also having to go to court when somebody doesn't want to comply.
Sure.
Mr. Chair.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Does a fire prevention officer need to be a firefighter too, or is this someone who can learn the
Well, they're
code
going to
and
be a
enforce it?
firefighter. They're going to have to know. I would say yes, because they're going to have to know the business.
But they don't have to.
They don't
But it's-
have to be.
but
They don't
it's
have to be. But somebody.
advantageous for them.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Mr. Chair, are these union positions?
They'd be in the union. Yeah.
Okay, so how does that work with the new contract? I mean, How does it work creating new positions after we've negotiated?
Yeah, if it's gonna be in the union, you would have to impact bargain a wage or a classification or stipend or whatever it was gonna be.
Okay. If I could just ask, can you just go into a little more detail with the firefighter salaries? It looks like it's jumping 33%. Is that just new
So
positions?
what the reason for that is, let me just shift it over. So the reason it's jumping is because 4 positions that were in, that firefighters that were in the fire department were always taken out of the ambulance enterprise. So now, because we're looking at this salary over here in the ambulance enterprise is going to be our 4 paramedics. So now the other four firefighters are getting shifted into this budget. So the fire department budget is going to go up by 4 positions, and then obviously the COLAs and everything. So that's why it's such a jump. There's 4 more positions actually being drawn out of that budget, where there hasn't been in the past.
Chief, on the inspectors, they charge a fee for the inspection.
Certain inspections, yes. Permits, all the permits, you turn around, like the permit for shutting down a sprinkler system, shutting down a fire alarm system, changing a fire alarm system, all the smoke detectors, there's a fee for that, depending on how many units it is and that. But there's a lot of fees involved, yes.
Do you have a rough idea what the net increase would be?
No, I'm not gonna, I really don't. I mean, I'd have to really, because one of the reasons is because like, my 4 officers, including myself, they take, all their receipts and then they just turn them in. So I don't see all the money that's collected from the 4 officers. They bring it up to the treasurer, they bring the paperwork to Diane, it goes through. So for me to just sit here and say, I wouldn't have a truthful answer.
We would know it, but you just don't know it.
Yes, correct. We would know it, but
Just
I
not
just
right
don't
at
know.
this
Right, exactly, yeah.
Does the town set the fee?
Yes. We got a fee schedule. I'll say 100% Chief Hart set that relatively new fee schedule down there. There's certain fees that you can only, under the code, you can only charge so much. And, so it's like oil tanks, oil-fired boilers, residential, like a 1-family house, smoking CO is $50, 2 families $100, 3 families $150, up till I think a 6-family. And then like propane storage permits at $25. So most of them are underground storage tanks, commercial, are $200 per container, per cell.
How does Clinton compare with surrounding towns for fees?
Pretty close. I'm good friends with Leominster and Stern. We're all pretty close. Nothing really crazy out of bound. One of the things that we do not do, not that it's a big money generator, but we don't do, is other municipalities charge, it's a minimal fee to burn brush. So like you call in and you say, I'm Bob Latini, you pay your money, and then you got a number assigned to you. So you call in on the weekend and say, hey, it's Bob Latini, number 17, I'd like to burn at my property, and get okay. It's like, it's not a lot of money. It's like, I forget what it is, it's low. So other than that, really, we charge pretty much for almost the majority of all of our stuff.
So the fire prevention officers be doing that also, going out and check and see about fires that are going up, grass fire?
Checking what?
Checking to see if someone gets a permit to burn.
No, I'm just
So
saying,
that wouldn't add
I'm just
into the-
talking revenue-wise. That's one thing that we don't charge for, is that.
Yeah, but that's my question next time. There has to be some idea, you can give us a guess of how much it's gonna get for one of these. I mean, isn't
Well,
it?
these guys aren't gonna go out and check the burning the brush.
No, but checking the other things. There's gotta be a fee coming in.
Yeah,
Just some idea of what it is.
Yeah.
10,000, 50,000? There has to be some way. If you said someone gets these slips.
Yes.
Is there any way of giving some idea?
Yeah, we can get it. I just don't have it today.
Paul.
Who doesn't do it? These 2 guys are gonna be doing it.
I don't think so.
What's that?
Not the fire.
Two different
Not a
things.
grass fire. or
Oh, you're not
whatever.
talking about, a brush,
No,
burning brush.
I'm not talking about that.
That's what he's talking about.
Fire inspection.
That's,
Oh, all right, so you're talking
So
about 2 different
we
things.
have to see what that number is, what's brought in by the fire department, 'cause I truly don't know on our inspection fees.
So what happens with, say, like Jack Mills, right, where they're going through this whole renovation?
Yeah.
I had spoke to someone and they had said that some municipalities basically factor in to the fee that that contractor has to have, they have to pay for an inspection, you know, a fire inspection officer throughout the whole project. Is that something?
I've never, let's put it this way, I would have to really look into that, like see if, like the city like Leominster or anybody that does, I don't know anybody that does that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, I'm saying I don't know. But I mean, as far as over there, and that money is more, the building permits get the bigger, we just basically get the permits for the sprinklers and for the fire alarm. That's minimal on those big projects.
Yeah, and to your point, I didn't know, you know, that scenario could be if it was a large city or something, you know. Yeah, I get you.
Mr. Chairman, Chief, so presently, the firefighters that are within your department now do these inspections, correct?
I do all the big facilities.
Yeah.
And they, if they're not on calls, which the ambulance doesn't seem to want to slow down, if they're not on calls, I'll try to get them to assist me. So like, I'll just give you an example, like some of these big buildings, you go in and they give you a form that's 100% testing. So they're saying they tested 100%. And the panel or the annunciator is addressed. So any place you go and you hit it, it should tell you right where that device is, it's addressed. So what we do is we go in and spot test. So we'll go into a unit, spot test it, stand at the annunciator, and every single test that I've done, every single test, I found problems. Every single one. And we're talking big facilities. Label drawn, detectors that just, for whatever reason, when they're doing the programming, a heat detector in 402 was in 401. So I found multiple. And this is, you gotta understand, we're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of devices, but I'm only checking like a pull station in that hallway, a pull station in this hallway, a pull station on the next, a heat detector in this unit, a smoke detector in that unit, and I still find problems. And like I said, we'll go into relatively larger, and just spot test, and if I have a couple of guys on different levels to make sure the horn strobes work and everything works, and then the outside strobes work and they're addressable, it takes, and like I said, we're literally very few tests, and it's hours worth of work. So, you know, we're out there, I'm doing the larger stuff. They're kind of handling this, trying to fit in the smoke detectors amongst the calls, the oil burner inspections amongst the calls. I kind of stick my hands in that, help them out a little if they can't get to them, because sometimes there could be like 4 or 5, like an oil company will have a lot of work going in there, just bring them in. So I'll kind of stick my hands in that. But as far as the sprinklers, is like 99.9% me. All the fire alarm retrofits, all the Lakeside, all the Briarwood, all the BDAs, all that, that's all me. I'm trying to just navigate all that as best I can. With their assistance, trying to give me a hand when I can get them.
So for commercial property, are commercial properties typically your largest?
Yeah, yes, but I mean, with the residential stuff, you know, because like, you mean, Jack's Mills is residential, Briarwood was, that's 42 units up there. We found multiple problems up there, you know. And then obviously, one of the things that really wasn't fire related, but they found luckily, it was, the power went out, nobody could get in the building. Because it was card swipe and the power de-energized the locks. So then they realized, oh, well, we got a problem. Thank God there was only a couple people living there, but nobody could get into the facility, it was locked. And when the power went down, the magnetic locks wouldn't release. So they had to change that. So just the things like that, you know, and then mislabeling stuff, you know, which is crucial, because when you get there and if there's a fire, you want to go right to where that fire is as fast as you can get there, in any building.
So your sample sizes for your tests are relatively small, but the rate of finding errors is extremely high.
Oh yeah, it's high. Shockingly high, to be honest with you. I was kind of like I actually, a couple of my guys, I radioed back, what unit are you in? Like, are we on the same page? And, no, I'm in 401. I said, well, it's saying 402 on the panel. It's saying ground level. Well, you're on the first floor. Why is it reading ground level on the pull station? You know, the map shows that you're in building C, but the pull station says you're in building D. There's no building D on the map. So these are the things that I constantly run into. And then, you know, business is just complaints. I mean, it's just constantly chasing complaints and doing the best you can. With i.e. sprinklers, obviously, some of my biggest issues and my biggest complaints are, you know, and believe me, I don't discriminate against anybody. I've been to O'Malley's, I've been to Mr. G's, the tire warehouse. But when I get complaints that there's tires outside, I go, I say, listen, you gotta get rid of your tires. Tires are combustible, you can't store them against your building, you gotta get rid of them. But one of the biggest problems, and every single person says the same thing, and I've watched them call, is they got no truck drivers. So they got 5 trucks and 2 drivers. So these companies, I forget what it is, it's not Pete's, it's another company that goes around picking up the tires. They don't have drivers. So these shops are just stacking their tires up, just waiting and waiting, trying to get in line to get rid of the tires. So it's not on the, and the other issues are, and I'm not gonna sit here and say that there's crowding in these establishments, but when we did all the liquor establishments, I went out and I spoke to everybody, Jimmy, myself, and as far as the inspections go on the liquor, it's been phenomenal, because since Jimmy and I really worked, talk to Jimmy almost every day, but we work diligently to get a lot of these facilities, really corrected, emergency lighting. So when we go into these facilities now, there's a lot less problems. It's an egress light that's out or something else. But the biggest thing is the question of overcrowding. It's overcrowded. There's a facility in town that I felt was overcrowded. I brought the gentleman in, super guy, we spoke. He actually invited me on April 15th. They're gonna have a band, and he invited me in, says, come and see, I'll have my crowd control manager there, and you can come and see what we look like at max. That's perfect. I said, so I'm on April 15th, I'm gonna speak to the building inspector, and we're gonna go to this facility together, somewhere around 9:15 at night, while the band is playing, and see what that place looks like at capacity. Because I obviously got kind of people questioning me about it, and I'll tell you exactly what happened. I walked by the facility with my daughter and taking her to a place to buy something. So I'm seeing. Then I get called out. People question me, hey, did you see that? So then I just, but like I said, the owner, super person, good guy, come in, talk to me. So I got invited into his business to see what it looks like. But crowd control, and like I said, that's why in my what I read is crowd, it's dangerous. I mean, what happened down there in West Warwick is dangerous. I'm not gonna tell you it goes on in Clinton, but occasionally we get crowded. And then we're trying to just go and explain enforcement to these people, why it's not safe to do this. And everybody's good. Every place we have no problems. But you got to enforce it. You got to take the time to go out and make sure they know you're watching. I told her, it was no secret. I said, make sure you got your FP 250 forms filled out for your events. Make sure you have your crowd control managers on scene, and we're going to come visit. I mean, we're just trying to be cordial, and everybody's been good. Like I said, I can't do any complaints, but we just got to make sure nobody. I don't want to end my career on a bad day. That's all I'm saying.
Just thinking creatively.
Yeah.
And I don't know where we're at with like ARPA requests and whatnot, but is there somebody who we could contract to help with some of these inspections and pay them out of like an ARPA sum of money that we put aside for it or something like that?
I mean, I could look into it. I can't answer that. I can look into it definitely of anybody that does, that type of contracting.
Yeah.
Good idea. Good idea.
Yeah, especially if like when we first roll it out, there's probably gonna be a lot more, so maybe you'd have 2 permanent and 1 contract, and then in a couple of years, hopefully the volume would go down. Mr. Chair, I just have a question, Mike, on the overtime. Is that just a reflection of us being understaffed, and is it, due to the difficulty in hiring new?
It is.
Okay.
Like I said, last year, until I lost my career, I'm like, oh, this is like down 60-something%. I was tracking the percentage.
Yeah.
And then boom, I lost 1, boom, I lost 2, boom, I lost 3. And then at the tail end of it, I had 3 I lost for staffing, and I had 4 out IOD.
Yeah.
So I had 7 out of my 25 not working. So then my overtime just right back down. So right now it's kind of, I just got 1 back from IOD. I got another one coming back the end of this month from IOD. So that's going to put 2 more people on my staff. So that's going to make me kind of, like I said, I put that in more for COLAs just in case. I mean, obviously I'm starting the hire process now. However, as my last meeting, Department of Fire Services is 8 months behind in the academy.
Okay.
So if I get people hired by, just say, the summertime, my existing positions, and then file their names with the academy, you're not talking till this time next year that they're even useful.
And would the discussions we've had about getting out of civil service help in that endeavor?
I think the only place that it would 100% help in the endeavor is for paramedics.
Okay.
100% would, because I don't think there's a lot of paramedics out there. We're gonna know once, we reach agreement with the contract and we start that hiring process.
Okay.
But the issue is that for whatever reason, and I'm not gonna give you the reason because I don't know the reason, is back when I started, there was 100 firefighters trying to get in the town of Clinton. Chief Sidlow and Leominster and I are very close friends, and he actually called me on Saturday when the list posted. And he looked at his list, and the city of Leominster was hundreds, Fitchburg was hundreds of people trying to get on those jobs. I'm pretty sure he told me he had 6 Leominster residents for the city of Leominster on the list, and he's hiring 3. That's unheard of. Nobody wants these jobs. I don't know whether people don't want to work. I'm not going to answer that. I just don't know why. But in some sense, the hiring of that would be a little bit easier, but more so on the paramedic side versus the firefighter side. It's still a process. You got to call for the list. You got to get it, and then everybody's got to come sign it. Then you got to do all your interview process. Then you got to go back in the computer and why you did what, offer jobs, stuff like that.
But Chief, so following up on his question, if we were out of civil service, that process that you are just describing would not exist.
That would not exist. You would go on all the posting sites, and you would put your job description together like multiple departments that are non-civil service, and you put it out, and then you get applicants, and you could look at what experience they have. So it would definitely change. It would probably put more people into the EMT basic line than that.
And not only that, you could advertise for people who had already been to the fire
Yes, you absolutely can.
So the 8 months waiting time that you're talking about a few minutes ago would not be there because you'd be hiring people who've already been.
Correct.
So I think to say that being out of civil service wouldn't have much impact on the current personnel situation in the fire department I disagree with your assessment that it wouldn't make much difference. I think it would make a tremendous difference.
Chief, so in the event that with the civil service, if somebody wanted to transfer, if they were working in Auburn, they decided they wanted to work closer to home, how does that process work where if it's a civil service department to leave to another civil service department, could they just
It's a lateral. It's a civil service. Civil service is just a lateral transfer. So it's just a form that comes out, and each chief signs it, saying that they're accepting the transfer to or from, and then that's it.
So hypothetically, if you have those 4 positions, you could post them, and then if there was somebody who wanted to work closer to home, they could basically apply. So you wouldn't have to necessarily wait for a list to come out.
Right.
So much like what Mr. Jagonski's saying, like in a way, you could still
For laterals.
lateral.
And then, I took a brief look at the list and then obviously worked on the budget, but I told Michael the other day that there was, on the basic EMT level, there was no Clinton residents. There's actually one. That firefighter works for Boylston full-time. He's on Boylston's job. And then there's some other, there's the non-EMT basic list has a handful, a relatively decent handful, they're not EMTs. 2 of them that have come in and visited me, and they are in school for EMT. So as this process goes along, the hiring, if they get their EMT license and they get it, they can amend through HR, which sends me an email and just says, shoot, they go right to the front of the list. Residency, one of them actually is military, and they have their EMT, so they jump everybody. So it's just, in this process, like I said, it takes a while because you got so many days to get the cards out and everything. So I'm crossing my fingers that, some of those non-EMTs will become EMTs during this process, and we can take a good look at them, and we can fill these 3 positions, hopefully relatively easy.
for a follow-up as I was trying to complete this thought. So if the compensation for Clinton Fire Department was such that it was attractive, it was more than they're making or whatever the case is, so that could also be something that could attract lateral moves if compensation was greater.
On the two positions of fire prevention officers, they're gonna be making more money than your fire chief, deputy fire chief's salary. Is that gonna affect everybody?
Because that's two, and you gotta put the holiday pay in there and everything. So no, they'd be right very close to the deputy's pay.
But I mean, that's not gonna cause a conflict then, like that, okay. Second question is, about 3 weeks ago, I saw in the news that the old firefighter uniforms had material in it, or possibly causing, are we out of that, or we still have problems with that?
So, back when I started, there was a lot of PFAS in your gear. Right now, the number is down to, I heard it just recently, maybe like 2%. So the PFAS is almost completely out of our gear.
So we don't need to buy all brand new equipment then, we're okay?
The gear that we have, no, we're compliant. So some of the things is you know, that obviously the International Association of Fire Chiefs and Firefighters pushes is 2 sets of gear. That's why I put in the second set of gear for ARPA funds. Because they basically want you to avoid cancer at all costs. So that being said, with cancer rates extremely high in firefighters, they want you to take your gear after any event. I don't care whether you crawl in and just the place is full of burnt food smoke. It's still carcinogens. They want you to wash your gear. So since you have your second set of gear, you put your second set of gear on, you're back in service, your gear is getting washed. I'm one of the guys, I wore that gear. I played in foam. I went through that era. Right now, I'm sitting here. I'm fortunate, it's only basal cell, but I've had 4 skin cancers already taken off me with 37 years on the job. So I'm one of those guys. So I'm watched. You know, good, obviously, you all know the retired firefighters, a lot of them are my best friends. They've 2 times what I've had for basal cell. Yeah, you know, we had one just recently, a retired guy, one of my best friends, works over here at Corcoran House, he had all the basal cell on his eye, and had to have, he was lucky not to have plastic surgery, but he had to have 5 hours with the surgery on his eye to have this cancer taken off. So it's just, it's prevalent, but our gear is 100 times safer than it ever was.
Last question is that the fire chief presented his budget one way because he included the 3% and 3%. The police chief presented it without that. What do we look at here when it comes to push come to shove at the end? How the budget's gonna be presented to us?
Well, I thought the chief put 3%, 2%.
All right, 3%. I thought someone said 3 and 3.
He gave it 3 and 3, but it's not worked in to this budget like.
Mine is.
Like
Because Michael and I had a conversation, and Michael told me you should do that.
Yeah,
So, you know,
no, I think that
way
we
there, if
should
anything
for
changes,
police too.
We can step it back versus trying to step it up.
Yeah, no, I think ultimately when we pull everything together, we'll want to plug something in. We don't want to be in a place where we don't have something plugged in.
Yeah, and once that covers that, then the retro pay is gonna be a lot less. It's I have all my, everything spreadsheets ready to go, individual people. I can do that like in a day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on. Old and new business. High Street banner request for a tribute road race on May 12th, 2023. Well, why don't we not that one?
Sure, okay. Mr. Chair, this is Gene Zotter, right? And we have, Angela, we have a policy now, what is it, like 2 weeks ahead of time, or?
Policy for Gene's Auto for the banner.
It's like a week ahead of time?
That's all paramedic.
All right, we're gonna take a 2.5 minute recess.
Supporting paramedics? No.
Well, ultimately.
Last year, the ambulance fund, there were 4 paramedics in there.
Here?
Yes, so we had to take 4 EMT firefighters.
Old and new business for High Street banner request for tribute road race on May 12, 2023.
Mr. Chairman, I'm here speaking on behalf of the Clinton Athletic Boosters Association. They were hoping to be here, but unfortunately, last minute it's just couldn't change. Effectively, I'd like to request that the town give the boosters permission to mount a banner on James Towing to advertise the tribute road race, which I believe is May 12th or so.
May 12th.
Additionally, they've also requested that they be given permission to mount a ground-mounted banner advertising the same event at the other end of High Street, conceivably on the grassy strip in front of Knightborough on Union Street. If it's the pleasure of this board, I would work with them on making sure that everything is the right size and dimension and that doesn't impede traffic or sight distances or anything along those lines.
Very good. Pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the Tribute Road Race, Gales Booster Club doing business as a Tribute Road Race to hang a banner on town property 329 High Street and to erect a sign subject to town approval at the Union end of High Street to advertise the annual Tribute Road Race to be held on May 12th.
Second. Any questions or comments? Congratulations to the to the nominees, Mr. Morrison and Mr. Gage and
Goodale.
Mr. Goodale. That's right. Mr.
Joining an
Goodale.
illustrious company, I have to say.
Absolutely right.
If you say so yourself.
Just going, but no, they do a great job. They've been, Mr. Goodale and Mr. Gage have been so generous with their time and so supportive of any cause. I didn't realize how many chicken print t-shirts there actually are out in the world because they seem to have them all. So thank you very much and congratulations. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on. Reserve fund transfer for $2,000 to SEMA.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve a request for reserve fund transfer in the amount of $2,000 for expenses related to Clinton Emergency Management Agency.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Reserve fund transfer for $2,628.52 for environmental services.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve a request from the reserve fund for an invoice from Parker Environmental in the amount of $2,628.52 for site testing work performed as required by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection regarding the release of firefighting foam during a training exercise at Clinton Fire Department.
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion?
You want to explain this one, Michael? Any explanation on this, or is this?
Yeah, that was one, I think there was already one transfer for the first part of the work that the board had reviewed. And there was a training exercise where some of that fire foam, as the chief referenced, was used. And it did get washed away into the Conopane Brook. And a complaint was made to DEP. So now they're requiring that there be testing all along that corridor, property and water, and making sure that there wasn't any levels of contamination because PFAS is in the firefighter foam, as the fire chief indicated. So just making sure that there aren't any PFAS levels that are above the hazardous levels. So far, there's one more round of testing on the brook, on the water in the brook. But the testing that's been done so far from the groundwater and some areas around the school have all been at minimal levels. So, and a lot of it's in the environment already from years of use of certain products. It's in our bodies from use of all that product, so it's pretty much everywhere. So there is going to be some results coming up because it's everywhere in the environment. So those hopefully are background levels, but we haven't gotten anything that's of any reportable level at this point. So there's one more round of testing of the Conopane Brook, and then the report is due to DEP in May. So there will be probably one more request to close out the funding, and then DEP will review, and then going forward, hopefully that'll close it, but if not, we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda. Do we not vote on that?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's all right. Reserve fund transfer for $44,463 for property insurance.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve a request from the reserve fund to, in the amount of $44,525 for the premium cost of property and liability insurance renewal for 525 Water Street in Clinton, which was taken for tax title purposes by the town of Clinton.
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think as Mr. Kerrigan did, just indicated the newer number, it just kind of bumped up by a couple $100 based on a quote that we had gotten for today for this. So that was an estimate that I had received previously. So this is for coverage of the property at 525 Water Street that we had taken for tax title purposes. The town owns a number of apartment units in that building. It went out to auction last year, and the successful bidder withdrew their bid. So we're still owners of that property. And in order to protect the asset, we've been insuring it. The company that we used last year, that price was probably in the $30,000 range. They canceled on us. They did not want to rewrite it. So our insurer had to go out and find another underwriting company to do that, and the price went up substantially from there. So this will get us another year. In the meantime, we're working with town council on some legal remedies to maybe try to condoize those units. And at that point, we can try to go back out to auction again. We don't want to be landlords or property managers. But hopefully this will cover us for a year, and at that point, we'll have another auction, and then it can go into private hands, and we won't have to carry this next year. So that's the plan.
Property's taken by tax title, and then now each month we're continuing to lose money based upon the insurance alone, right?
Right.
Well, we are collecting, the 8 units, we are collecting rent money too, so.
Correct.
So there's a substantial, a lot more than the insurance we get,
Okay, so it's 8 units.
8 units.
Eight units.
It might be 1 or 2 now that aren't rented, but the other ones are paying monthly, so the town does get, those rent checks have been coming to the town, so there is,
I didn't
a treasure
realize
trap.
8 units.
And this, as Mr. Ward mentioned, we do have the buyer the high bidder who backed out, we declined to return their deposit, which was $210,000, so we have pending litigation with them right now. It's an interpretation issue under the condo documents, whether or not the town held valid title. So that litigation is pending. And then we also are working with the town owns 8 units down there as a result of the auction or the tax taking. The other 5 units are separately owned by different owners. And those 5 unit owners have counsel right now. They're trying to work to actually get a condo association formed down there. They've never had one. Then if they do that, then they would allow the town, hopefully through an agreement, to phase our 8 units in. So then you'd have a real condo. We'd have to pay a cost for that, but that would come from the auction. It'd be a win for everybody. So those negotiations are ongoing. So we have 2 parallel paths going. But if they can get that condo association formed, allow us to then phase our 8 units in, because the phasing rights did expire. They'd have to agree to that, which they would, because it would benefit them in the long run. Then we could have a new auction. There shouldn't be any title issue at all. We probably would get even higher bids. So it's taking time, but hopefully we'll get there.
Very good. Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is the sidewalk analysis request for proposals. Had you received any questions or anything from the board?
No, not at this time. So if anyone had anything tonight that they wanted to reference, otherwise the advertising has started. So if everything's okay tonight, then we can start distributing. We've gotten, I think, 3 requests so far. I think one was a company, the other 2 might have been just trade publications, that distributed to their members. So hopefully the word will start getting out and try to get proposals that we can review. Because I don't know anyone that would do this, so trying to just cast a net, and anyone's welcome to pass on the RFP or RFQ to try to get pricing, but this way I just figured we'd put it into central register, which it's not required based on the price that this would be, but by putting it there, all contractors subscribe to that, so everyone, you'll get a wide distribution, so.
Very good. Does this require a motion to move forward? or
If you
we
could, yeah, to a motion to approve to continue to send it out, yeah, that'd be great.
High strung sign.
Sure. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the draft, RFQ, what's the Q, sorry?
Qualifications.
Request for qualifications to solicit proposals for a post-construction analysis of the sidewalks in the downtown district. Excuse me.
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
The next item on the agenda would be Town Administrator Goals Review. We had spoke at a prior meeting about having Mr. Ward provide a brief spotlight on what's going well and
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know how the board wanted to go through. I put some notes to each of the objectives. So I didn't know if you wanted to run through my notes verbally on this, or if it's something that you wanted me to provide a written document to the board to review, or how we wanted to proceed. I know that, I'd asked the Economic Development Director to help on some of the business aspects, so his, the section was pretty extensive, so I didn't know if we wanted to kind of go through verbally talking about it, or if you wanted me to send this by email to everybody to review. What would be your thoughts?
Mr. Chair, if I may, it might make sense to maybe distribute by email first and review, and then that way, when we discuss it, we've had a chance to digest it first. We might have some questions. It's just my take.
Yeah, no, that I think would be helpful, because I was hoping to be able to get some feedback on areas that you think, I need to kind of beef up on, or things that you have questions on, or, things that you feel that we haven't, hit the point on some of the objectives. That would be helpful to me anyway, so.
excellent.
That makes sense.
How does, overall, how do you feel things are going as far as goals that the departments that report to you, like how's that been going?
Good. I think in terms of these proposals, pushing them out through the organization and getting the cooperation, like I said, Mr. Duffy has helped on some, Angela's working on some, HR is working on others, then any specific department that, that would have a specific issue, that they would follow up on. But in terms of all departments that'll be working, like on the communication piece and the customer service piece, we're going to be doing late at the end of April, we're going to be doing customer service training for department heads on how to kind of manage that in the department, but also for employees and what the expectations will be. So the facilitator coming in will meet with the managers to try and get what their expectations are, what they're looking for, as well as, me giving input, what the board would want, and then they would go forward with the employees and pass that on. So, Angela's will work with departments for the website update to make sure departments are providing more information, getting that communication out there, getting things beefed up to get out to the public, so they don't have to always be kind of searching for the information. So on those issues where they address these aspects, I think we've had a lot of collaboration with department heads throughout on it, so it's been good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
In your opinion, how has it been received by, the department heads or the staff? Has there been positive feedback, or?
Yeah, no, I think it's been good. I think, again, if it's defined where we know, what the board is looking for and what your expectations with my position, and then I can then bring that forward to the department heads, then they know, there's things that they have goals, their own department goals of things they want to get done specific to their department. But in terms of how it affects this document, I think they then appreciate to know what we're looking for, so then they can say, all right, this is what we're doing, or this is the route that we need to take. So, so I've been having some good expectations from it.
Yeah, so even though, departments may be siloed in their operation, overall, we're all working in the same direction, which seems to be.
Exactly, especially these overarching goals, you know, again, of how we're providing the service, how we're interacting with the public, and, you know, and everybody wants to feel that they're doing their job, you know, well, and that we're here to serve the public. So I think everyone, you know, has a desire to want to meet that, and they have their own set of values of what they're doing, but if there's other ideas or, you know, other things that we're not hitting, then we certainly would like to know so that we can touch on those as well too. And I think a lot of that through with the website on getting information out there that we think, all right, this is what we think people want, but then we find out, no, there's all these other things that the public is really looking for. So I think that's invaluable, having that feedback.
You know, and I think even when Mr. Kittredge had mentioned the other day, just the volume that comes in through the website for paying taxes, and I just had a conversation yesterday with somebody about, you know, how the process works, and it's unbelievably convenient.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that was great to hear, because otherwise that might be something that just kind of gets rolled into the day-to-day operations, and, you know, then it kind of gives us an opportunity to kind of look to see, like you're saying, what things can we continue to expand on to make things easier and
Exactly, I
more
was just
efficient.
going to mention that, to expand on that, because now that program that he's using is user-friendly and people seem to be embracing it. I've talked to the town clerk's office, and a lot of times now people will come in and they'll need a document or a fee or something, and a lot of people don't have cash. I know a lot of times I don't carry cash in my wallet, so they think that they can just go and use their swipe, and they don't have that option. So by tying, this company can also do other licenses and permits and fees other than just taxes. So they are very interested in wanting to try to expand that to have their office. And then talking with our office and talking with Joyce, you know, all these license holders that come in, again, you know, making it easy for them to make their payments to us. A lot of them is what they'll bring in checks. But if they are able to kind of, hey, here's a swipe, or I can pay online and mail me the license, then that'll make processing a lot easier on our end as well. So Joyce even expressed interest in trying to roll that out in our office down the road too. So I think there is a way to expand on that, and again, by having that expectation out there and departments all being aware of it and working together, we find out that you have your silo of your specific department you have to run, but knowing there's resources outside of that can help you, but that then you can help others as well too. So.
Well, hopefully next stop is dog license.
I know, I was just
Yeah,
gonna say.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
the last check I wrote and last time I stopped in was for the dog license.
Right.
Mr. Chair, just a recommendation, instead of, because I know we talked about going together on the goals, and I think we talked about maybe kind of going over a lot of goals at only a couple meetings. It's, you know, something that we can discuss, but it might not be the worst, a bad idea to kind of take it slow and have, like, you know, do like one goal at a meeting and actually take some time so that way we're not just like kind of breezing through like 7 or 8 things. So just take one goal so we can spend like 10 or 15 minutes and just get in the habit of every meeting having like one goal on there that we can discuss. And then Mike, you and Mike can decide like the priority of, like, you know, obviously Mike's probably going to want to talk about the goals that he's done the most work on to start, and then we'll kind of work our way down the list. Just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's, yeah, I appreciate that, and that's what I had indicated tonight. If I just kind of ran through, you know, 20 points of notes here, you know, it would just be kind of going through quickly and then not picking up on it, you know.
And I like it too, because it keeps it kind of fresh every meeting, versus sometimes with these goals, you can get in the habit of, you create the goals, then you go over them 6 months later, and then you don't really talk about them again. And this way, we'll kind of like keep it, you know, right in the front and center as we're working through our meetings.
Yeah, and I think it gives you an opportunity to kind of showcase the great things that are happening that you're doing, where, again, you know, it seems, you know, it's easy to get lost in the day-to-day business operation or right, you know, having our meetings every other week.
Mr. Chair, before we move out of old and new business, would you mind, I do owe the board an update, a timeline for that business outreach. So we get together about 3 times with Phil, with the Director of Economic Development, and the Clinton Chamber of Commerce. We came up with a rough, an outline. It's a tiered approach to distributing the money. Phil will be addressing the board shortly with more details on how that is going to look, but just for some tentative dates so people can wrap their heads around like how long this initiative we think it might take. He's been working on this and he came up with this timeline. I'm just going to briefly go over it. So he's thinking about a little over about a month and a half from, he's hoping for the May 17th select board meeting to present the general plan for approval by the select board. And then from May 17th to June 23rd is where the portal would be open to accept applications. And then shortly after that, in the beginning of July, say July 1st, that would be the first time where we would be taking a look at what the demand is, how many applications we had. By that point, we would have a chance to vet through some of them, see which ones are legitimate, which ones are not. At that point, if we felt that the $150,000 that's in there needed to be adjusted, if there was still money available during that time, we would ask that the money be adjusted within reason to compensate what the demand was. And then the goal is shortly after that, once that gets approved, that the program would be closing on September 1st. And we hope by September 1st that the money that has been approved to be distributed to the businesses would be distributed, and that initiative would be closed out. So those are the tentative dates and the timelines for this initiative. And I can email this, or Phil, I can ask Phil to email this out to the board so you guys can read it in more detail.
That was great. I think in listening to the Clinton Area Chamber of Commerce and the Worcester Chamber of Commerce, something that kind of opened my eyes was just the idea, when we think about the ARPA funds and trying to help businesses that were impacted by COVID, by, whether it's, kind of helping the loss in a sense, but then looking at it from a different perspective on, just because a business may not have necessarily lost money during COVID, if they have momentum going forward and the business is flourishing, and then it kind of hits that lull, like this funding can also be used to kind of give them like a jump start to kind of get them back on that the line that they have been traveling, so I think it'll be great.
It's good, and the thing that's good about this too is the Clinton Chamber of Commerce has resources with the Worcester Chamber of Commerce, and David Sullivan, who was here at a couple meetings ago, him and a couple other people that were involved, they've already gone through this in Worcester, so they're a tremendous resource in giving advice on what they think worked, what didn't work. So it's I've heard some of the squawking. It is unfortunate that we're a little bit behind some of the other communities, but the benefit of that is we do have a little bit of better perspective to see like what worked and what didn't work, and we can use it to our advantage.
Very good. Thank you very much. Anything else under old and new?
We're going to set the 18th annual town meeting schedule, or nothing?
If we could, in terms of warrant articles for town meeting, I know I meant to put it on the agenda, but I've asked department heads for any of their articles, but I was just asking if the board is permission for maybe having the assistant town administrator start just kind of putting something on the website to ask people if they have any public warrant articles to submit, and if the board wanted to set a date tonight or next meeting, maybe set a deadline, but probably by the end of April, hoping that they would be all in so they could be reviewed in May at this point. So we didn't get a lot from departments, so I don't anticipate we'll have an enormous amount, but we just want to at least let the public know that the timeline is open. So.
Do you want to say April 20 excuse me, April 28th, and we could review, or that'd be great. Look at them May 3rd.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we
push it a couple days before that, because then you're gonna get some stragglers. So at least 26, and then if you have a couple stragglers, it doesn't put Michael against the wall trying to get things in for the packet. for that fall.
Mr. Chair, I move that we, do we have to authorize her to do anything or just set the date? Am I authorizing Angela to do anything or just set the date?
Well, I think if you want to set the date is great, then we can just run with it
Yeah.
from there, yeah.
We'll set a deadline for April 26th, end of business for submission of potential annual town meeting warrant articles.
Second.
As long as that's,
Any discussion, questions?
if that's official, then we can just put it out wherever we need to from there.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then along those lines, is there a tentative date on the production of the annual town report?
I don't have an actual date, but I mean, the intent is to have something no later than the end of April, so.
Perfect.
So, yeah, around that probably same timeline, we should have something.
Now, will that be a hard copy as well, or are we gonna go soft and hard, soft and hard copy?
Well, we'll do both, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, so definitely be the 8.5 by 11 documents that we'll have available for here at
Awesome.
the town hall, yeah. And it'll be posted on the website as well, too. Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. Anything else under, there being none? All right, so for community announcements, committee reports, any committee reports? Being none. I saw that the Old Home Day Committee, did you meet today?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, we did, yep.
Yep.
Yep, everything's going terrific,
That's
yep.
awesome.
Yeah, we're getting great response, and we're hoping it'll be bigger and better than ever. Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. All right, community announcements, Council on Aging. You can now register for Council on Aging programs online by going to myactivecenter.com. That's myactivecenter.com and following the directions for new users. If you have any difficulty, please stop by the Council on Aging Center and they can help you. Again, that's myactivecenter.com. Clinton takeover of Polar Park. Join Clinton Parks and Recreation at Polar Park on Tuesday, May 16th, 2023 for Clinton takeover of Polar Park. Each ticket purchased through the link on the Clinton Parks and Recreation website contributes towards Clinton's standing in the 2023 Woo Sox Town Takeover competition. Residents of Clinton will be heavily featured in the pregame ceremonies and throughout the ball game. Visit the Clinton Parks and Recreation website for more information at clintonrec.com. That's clintonrec.com. And I believe this event was made possible by Clinton High School senior. I think Zach Varakis has an internship there through his senior project, and this is one of the events. So congratulations on getting this together, and hopefully we can get a great turnout for the town of Clinton at Polar Park. And anything else that anyone wants to plug?
Mr. Chair, not really a plug, but I know our veterans agent, Brendan Bailey, I know he was, I think there was some plan, he was gonna come to this meeting and discuss, but I don't think he was able to make it or something, but at a future meeting, I think he asked me to just kind of bring up, kind of just plant the seed that he may be looking for some assistance with the Memorial Day Parade. The volunteers that used to run it are they're not as many of them as there are before. So he was just raising the possibility of maybe, I believe he's already reached out to the Parks and Rec and just had a discussion with them about if that'd be something to be interested in helping out. I don't even know what role we would play in that, but he just kind of asked if under, some sort of community, at some point in this meeting, I just kind of mentioned it to just kind of get it in the, just kind of plant the seed. And I'm sure we'll have some discussions at a future meeting about it.
Very good. We will be tabling the executive session that was scheduled for this evening. Just kidding, we're gonna do it now. So, all right, well, first off, our next meeting is going to be on April 19th, and that will be the regularly scheduled 7 p.m. start. So that's Wednesday, April 19th. and, there's something else, but I forget now, so. All right, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.